Don't look now, but the Warriors actually aren't dead yet. They're on a win streak without Steph Curry and are currently only a game out of a top 4 seed in the West. What? How did that happen? Warriors suck this year. Like legitimately, they've sucked all year. Like we were playing Jamichael Green and just had no center and Wiseman was just unplayable, and then we traded Wiseman for Gary Payton who's injured, and Steph's out and Wiggins is out, and what? And these aren't just like shitty teams. These are like actual teams. What? How did that happen? All right, before I get into the Warriors, I want to say two things. The Mavs finally won a game, and it took Kyrie and Luka both scoring 40 to actually win a game. Good for them, but also highly concerning. Two, Clippers. I'm. This is not their best 3-4 game stretch. They've lost about, I think, 3 in a row or 4 in a row, and they haven't been able to close games. They haven't been able to keep connected in the end of the fourth, or in the Warriors' case, in the third. But I think the Warriors game was like they were shooting terribly from 3-point range, and part of that is the defense, and part of that is the fact that just as a whole nobody was hitting. I think the like Terrence Mann had some, and like Kawhi had one or two, and that was pretty much it. Paul George had one, and that was literally all the threes the team made. Uh, it's not Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook was actually playing quite good for them. He had a couple of turnovers, as he always does, but he was actually really keeping the ball moving. But I will say the way Draymond was sagging off, Draymond and Looney were both sagging off of him and clogging the paint, was really, really problematic when he was on the floor, because when they weren't sagging off to that degree right off rip, because Westbrook was actually being a little bit more aggressive and he was keeping the ball moving really, really well. And it actually made the Clippers offense look a little bit more like a swing offense. But man, that was rough. The paint packing made it really difficult for Kawhi to get into any kind of offense. And in a night where he was already struggling, not being able to get any rhythm shots is tough. It's tough. Like he had a couple of free throws and then he couldn't even hit the free throws because he was just so out of rhythm. And I think that was kind of a testament to how how they have been playing, and how Kawhi can be stopped with this Russell Westbrook pairing when it's on the court. Now, granted, Kawhi's so good 99% of the time, that's not going to work. He's still going to get his. I mean, he still had over 20 in this game, so it's not like he didn't score. It's just that it wasn't Kawhi. It wasn't like the Kawhi that we've been seeing, where, because it looked like he's been back on his feet. He was like scoring 30 a game. Like he was doing a lot of really good stuff, and that was a rough game. All right, enough about the Clippers. Klay Thompson. Oh, shit, man. Klay Thompson has been playing absolutely amazingly. Like Klay has been one of the best guards in the league. He's been playing so fantastic. Like he's been hitting his threes again. He's been on 45% on threes since the new year. He's been amazing in the mid range, when because Clay's been tends to take these, like, where he and he doesn't move and he's on his feet, and it's just like, what is this guy doing? That shot can't possibly go in. That's a terrible shot, and then it just goes in, and you're like, oh yeah, he's Klay Thompson. He's one of the best shooters of all time. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But and then it still doesn't. It still blows my mind every time I see it, because like if a guy in my pickup game was taking those shots, even if he was making them, I'd be super pissed. I'd be like, what? Um, I think the main thing takeaway from this game for the Warriors is Well, Clay also had a career high in rebounds last night, 11 rebounds. Somehow is his career high. He is a two guard, so it's not like, and he's never needed to be much of a rebounder for this team, considering they've always had the high energy guys on the back end. They've always had their, Pat McCaws, their, you know, Kamingas, your Andrew Bogut, your Gary Paytons, who's like, 6-0, but plays like he's 7-0. And it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild that that's his career high, but he was doing it all, and he had some really good passes, and his ball handling has actually improved a little bit over this stretch because his ball handling post injury was ooh, rough. Like every time that man dribbled the ball, it was not a good look, and he's really starting to find his rhythm in the league. Like he's really starting to find how he is fitting as a player, and it's also part of not even fit. It's more like he came into the season not in his best shape because he didn't want to get injured in the offseason, so he didn't really do as much in the offseason as you would like for him. And it really showed. He was struggling to get his shot in. A lot of his shots were short. He was clearly didn't have his legs under him. He was rusty on some mechanics. His footwork was messed up. All this stuff was going against him, and he was getting slandered for it. And I mean, I guess the only thing I can say is that Clay is back, and this is some of the hottest and best play I've seen from him. And it's not just that he's making every shot, it's the way he's playing. It's the way he's handling the ball. It's the way he's fitting into the offense. Whereas before he was just shot chucking. And, he's a splash brother. He can shot chuck a little bit, but that's not the Warriors offense. And part of the reason the Warriors were not doing well when Steph Curry first came back from his injury earlier this season was because Steph Curry was shot chucking. He wanted to do the isolation, like game closing, whatever, instead of running the offense. He wanted to do this stuff to be the all time great that he is. And that is something that, yeah, it's great when you can do it, and Steph Curry can do it. But the team is good enough, I think, at this point. You've got the best 5-man lineup in the league that you can just rely on your system. And I think that is going to be what carries this team. Now, I'm still not confident that the Warriors are a finals team. I need to see Clay and Steph and Wiggins and Draymond and Looney on the floor at the same time, and maybe not instead of Looney, I want to see Kuminga or Poole as well. I want to see those lineups again and see how they play in the last. Steph's coming back in, I believe they said 2 weeks. It was what they were aiming for against the Lakers, their Lakers game, which might not be full 2 weeks, but you know. So I want to see him back, and Wiggins is out for family reasons, so I'm not really sure when he'll be back per se. I think they were optimistic that he would be back in the next week, but with family stuff, you never know. I'm not particularly sure what it is, but hopefully they'll all be on the floor and they'll have 15 games to see this through. And I think there is a realistic chance that they could make a run in the postseason, especially if they end up in that 4 seed. That would give them home court advantage in the first round, which would be massive for this team because if you've been watching them, they're significantly better on offense and significantly better on defense. Like way better on defense at home. And it's not even close. And I'd like to be optimistic. I'd like to say, in the playoffs, they will, hopefully manage to play defense. But when you don't play defense all year, that's hard for me to just make that leap. Like, they've got Draymond, they've got Kuminga, they've got Wiggins, they've got Looney. Steph's a good defender. Clay's been getting his defensive reps up. He's been playing better defensively. Like, Gary Payton will be healthy. Like, all these are like, Yes, but I want to see it first before the playoffs, at least in the ramp up. And maybe we could get like a Celtics turnaround like what they did last year. Granted, that was an all-time turnaround, so I'm not optimistic that it's going to be to that level, but it's there. I think the most interesting thing that I find with this roster is that they've managed to win despite really not having a big. And they really do need a big. Like Plumlee had one. I forget. I think it's Mason Plumlee. I forget which one it is. One of the Plumlees, the one who's on the Clippers, had a career high in rebounds in like the first half. What? Like that's going to be problematic in the playoffs. At least you gotta assume, right? Maybe not so much in the West because with Jokic they can. We saw how they played against the Nuggets, but I don't think it's not going to get punished, at least to some level. Whether or not they can succeed in spite of that is something that remains to be seen because, hey, this is a different team than last year. Otto Porter Jr. is not Dante DiVincenzo. Dante DiVincenzo is not Otto Porter Jr. Dante does a lot of really good stuff. He's not the rebounder Otto was. He's not the body, the big body that Otto Porter was. Even though he's not necessarily like, it's just not. He brings a different element, and Dante's been amazing. He's been shooting 45% from three. Him and Clay have been crushing it from downtown. But either way, what do you think about the Warriors' chances? They are about to go into a really tough stretch of games without Steph. So if they can manage to continue this winning, and not necessarily winning every game, but beat some of those tough teams. Ooh, look out. Look out. The West standings are up in the air. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Leave a like, subscribe.